Hey, I hope you guys are doing well. As I look back on these 2 weeks of British literature, it's honestly a little difficult for me to pinpoint a single lesson I've learned because I feel like there's so much valuable content in the text we read. But to pick one in particular, I'd probably say that just labels aren't always effective. So this class has driven home the point that it's hard to put blanket labels on anything really, because on the first day when we started online class, we were instructed to read Beowulf. I really thought that all the readings to come were going to be pretty similar. And to be honest, that text is honestly a little difficult for me to read, and I didn't realize how much more there was to British literature. And I mean, I've only scratched the surface, but by the time I was reading the Romantic and Victorian texts, I was really starting to enjoy it. So, as you can see here, British literature is just a huge term that cannot even describe the many works within. I mean, from Anglo Saxon to the Victorian age and 20th century pieces, there's really so many differences between them, and it's hard to just say British literature and have that define a piece besides really just saying that it was created in England. Um, so there's a TV show I used to watch when I was a kid called Wizards of Waverly Place, and the theme song was sung by Selena Gomez. The song called "Everything Is Not as It Seems," and I think that song really relates to the lesson I'm talking about here because um, British literature is just a huge term that it's hard to describe everything that's within, and sometimes there's pieces within, say, a given time period that are a little out of place or is not what one would typically expect. This song title especially relates for a category like the Victorian age. It's not enough to make assumptions about the authors and literary works within, because in these three poems we read, In Memoriam, Dover Beach, and No Worse There's None, they're all similar in their incorporation of religion relating to the Victorian era, but they present some distinct messages. Like In Memoriam and Dover Beach, there's some discontent with with the brutal force of nature and the battlefield of the world, but in No Worse There's None, that's incredibly pessimistic, and the author feels no relief from Mother Mary and just looks forward to the death, which is when he'll no longer suffer. Um, they vary immensely, and it's really just a life lesson not to generalize. Overall, I'd just like to say thank you, mainly for opening my eyes and exposing me to some historic literature that I would not have typically read. I think it's a good thing to read about history and not even just reading a textbook of facts, but learning about it through the eyes of authors of the time. So, thanks again.